Nintendo just dropped record-breaking numbers, but numbers alone don't tell the real story. I'm going to tell you what they mean in this issue of Switch 2 News Direct. Nintendo has raised its full-year sales forecast for the Switch 2 from 15 million units to 19 million units by the end of March 2026. As of September 30th, the Switch 2 has already cleared more than 10 million units worldwide, including 4.5 million sold in the last quarter alone. That pace makes it the fastest-selling system in Nintendo's history, and according to retail analysts, the fastest piece of gaming hardware ever released in the US. Launch month sales in America topped roughly 1.6 million consoles, and software's keeping stride. Games like Mario Kart and Pokemon ZA are driving attach rates that most competitors can only dream about, with bundles selling out as soon as they hit shelves. In response, Nintendo has reportedly ramped production towards 25 million units built by next March, with analysts expecting close to 20 million sold by that point. That's an extraordinary trajectory for hardware that's only been on the market a few months. At this rate, it's not just strong performance, it's a reminder that Nintendo keeps rewriting the playbook. While other platforms might fight to explain specs and service models, Nintendo's selling fun by the truckload. The Switch 2 isn't chasing trends or raw horsepower, it's proving again that when the games hit and the concepts connect, the market follows. In short, momentum like this just doesn't happen by accident. Nintendo Switch 2 didn't just launch, it detonated, and it's still expanding its blast radius. So the first thing I want to talk about today, folks, is the Switch 2 being a failure. And obviously it's not a failure. But if you frequent YouTube, which I'm assuming most of you do because you're watching my channel right now, you would think that the Switch 2 was basically a re-release of the Wii U. We heard everything from buyer's remorse, the screen sucks, key cards, I'm quitting Nintendo, I'm never buying Nintendo. When I go into Walmart, all I see is the shelves stocked with Switch 2s. Nobody's buying them. System's a failure. Nintendo blew it. Well, these numbers prove that wrong. And I don't think any normal thinking, rational human being that knows how to read thought that any of that nonsense was correct. I mean, you almost have to be completely delusional or your life completely revolve around your hate of Nintendo to somehow spin these numbers and everything that the Switch 2 has done over the last 5 months into something that you believe says it's failing. But I digress. So obviously, point number one, the Switch 2 is not failing. The Switch 2 looks like it's in great shape. My next point is third-party support. Now, I know I've been harping on this for a while, and I just kind of made a video that talked about third-party support, but this is a huge deal. There was third-party support with the original Switch, but the games weren't the greatest, and it kind of fizzled out after maybe the first year or so. I have to look back and see, but the third-party support, the good third-party support fizzled out pretty darn quick. Now with the Switch 2, it's a completely different story because we have that user base. User base is the metrics that's used to determine who's winning the console wars in slang terms. Because whoever has the larger user base, sold the most systems, allegedly should have made the most money, is really the winner of the console wars. So the user base right off the top right now with the Switch 2 is incredible for just 5 months. So that user base is really going to push third-party developers to put games on the Switch 2, because the more systems that are out there, the more developers or the more publishers that are going to put games on your system, which is the whole reason that these companies want to win the console wars. They want their system to be the prevalent system, to be the #1 system on the pyramid of systems that are out. Now, this pyramid is obviously getting smaller because Xbox is pretty much out of the mix at this point. PlayStation, they put a good product out. I know I like to bust on it because I'm kind of a Nintendo guy, but I really like to play everything. PlayStation is in the mix for sure, and we'll see what they're going to do in the next generation. But you want to be on top because you want to get all the bells and whistles that go along with being on top. And the #1 thing is companies wanting to make games for your systems. Now, Nintendo could survive on first-party releases, no problem. But the more third-party games we can get, the better. And look at Resident Evil 9. We have, Capcom, top-tier company. We also have Star Wars Outlaws. Maybe not the greatest game, but we're seeing what they can do with that game with the power of the Switch 2. So what I'm getting at here is we're getting these third-party publishers, third-party games on the Switch. Quality third-party games really is kind of like the next level up from third-party games. And we're starting to see that already. So let's move on to my next point is first-party ramp-up. Now, this is a complaint that a lot of people had with the Switch 2 is first-party games. Now we're seeing first-party games. We're seeing a lot of refreshes. We're seeing a lot of updates to Switch 2 versions. There's some complaints there. I'm a fan, but there are some complaints there. People would rather see first-party game full development instead of rehashing, old games and upgrading them for the Switch 2. I don't mind buying these older games that have been upgraded, but I agree. I also want to see newer games. But my theory on that is I think Nintendo's being cagey. I think there's definitely a Wii U hangover going on here. Even though the Switch 1 is the best-selling system of all times, don't care what Sony says with their fake numbers, I think there's a little bit of paranoia there when any system is released. So I think Nintendo was just taking it slow and trickling out some games and waiting till after the holidays, that after the holidays, they'll have solid numbers on where they really stand with the Switch 2. And then I think you're really going to see things ramp up. At least that's my opinion. We'll see what happens. My next point, the future is wide open. And what I mean by that is if you take the 3 bullet points that I just gave, we have the user base in place, we have third-party support, and we have first-party ramp-up. Those are really the key elements. And that's what's going to push the Switch 2 into the next phase of its life cycle. So let me know what you think about that in the comments, and we'll talk about it in the next edition of Switch 2 News Direct. Peace.